with it when they hit the midlife. So I'm going to help you understand why this is. Why do you see that change in your body shape or weight, even though you're doing the same things? So the role our hormones play for our weight management, for metabolism, what nutritions should we look at? What supports our body to maintain our hormone levels, maintain our muscle mass, and to make sure that the blood sugar is maintained at a healthy level? What, the movement, sleep, and stress, what they do to our system, how they affect our weight, especially at this period in life, and some practical strategy for feeling stronger, healthier, to prevent chronic diseases that we may have a genetic predisposition to, for example, osteoporosis or cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. And as I said, there's plenty of time at the end for questions and discussions. For the first time, we've tried to make this a little bit more interactive, and I would really appreciate it if you can take part in this poll, because I think it will help us understand, even for this smaller group, what's going on, that you're not alone. So how has menopause affected your weight? You can choose from the 4 options. So if there's no change, just click on A. If you've gained around about 2-3 kilograms, choose B. If it's more than 5 kilograms, C. And if it is absolutely of no concern, then you can choose D. Just give you a few seconds. Great. Can we see the results, Susmita?
Yes,
maybe in the chat.
Yeah. So I've received the answers.
If you can just
share
it. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's good. Thanks for bearing with us, because we're trying to also figure out how to do this. So it would be, okay, I can see the, yeah, so it says, so about 71%, 2.5 kilograms, 29% more than 5. There's no one that has said no change, and there's no one with that weight isn't there any concern. Great. So I'm going to close this.
Yeah.
I hope you can, be reassured to know that you're not alone. That's basically the purpose of that slide. And then just very quickly, what do you think about this statement? Menopause completely destroys your metabolism. So true for, choose A if it's true, or B if it's false. Menopause completely destroys your metabolism. I think we can just, like before, Susmita, just show the...
Okay.
Because these are questions that come up in consultation for me. And I hope, by looking at it together, you can also get some insight into what's going on at this point. Okay.
Are you able to see?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, you know what you would. Maybe I can just share.
I can
my
tell you
answer. Yeah, I'll show you my answer to this, because interestingly, majority of people think that it's their metabolism that has slowed down completely at menopause, and that's what has resulted in the weight gain. And that's partly true, but it's not the main reason why you start gaining the weight. The bigger drivers for the weight gain, the main one actually is the loss of muscle. So I wanted to sort of really from the start reiterate how important your muscle mass is in order to keep the weight at the optimal level. The reduction in movement. Now, this could be because generally perimenopause and menopausal women become more inflamed, so they have joint aches and pains and muscle ache, muscle spasms are relatively common symptoms, and they obviously interfere with someone's movement. Poor sleep, which I'll go into all of these in more detail in the next slides, insulin resistance, a level of stress, and of course the hormonal changes that is obvious. So menopause doesn't break your metabolism, but it changes the rules, definitely. So why do women gain weight during the menopause? The first thing is our hormones. So the lower your estrogen is, the more you are storing fat. So your balance of fat to muscle changes entirely. You'll start losing muscle and gaining fat and storing fat, essentially. We get less sleep, we are more stressed, and we have busier lives, which increases cortisol, which is an inflammatory and stress hormone. And that again makes us more insulin resistant, and more difficult to lose the calories. And from biology point of view, what's happening is from about 35, 40, you're losing muscle mass unless you're deliberately doing exercises to gain that mass.
Sorry, Dr. Leila, to interrupt you. I think when we were trying to do the polls, we lost the presentation view. If you don't mind, again, sharing the presentation, please.
Oh, I'm so sorry about this.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can you open? Let me see this. Can you see? Can you see the slideshow?
Yes, we can see them now.
Okay, good. So basically the three main topics that the weight gain comes under is our hormones, our lifestyle, and our biology. So what happens is that with the lower levels of estrogen, you're more likely to store fat and more likely to become insulin resistant, essentially. So where is our fat going? Before you are menopausal, fat mainly for females is around their hips and thighs. The actual drop in estrogen level results in movement of that fat to more visceral or central. Visceral fat just means the fat surrounding your internal organs, and it produces that the visceral fat or central fat, the fat around the abdomen, is not just an inactive stored fat. It's actually a very active organ in itself. It's producing quite a lot of inflammatory chemicals, which results in, obviously, inflammation. It results in insulin resistance. It results in also feeling more hungry. And it can give you, it can increase chances of chronic diseases, especially in women who have a genetic predisposition. So that means that if you have a higher number of first-degree relatives or first-degree relatives who develop the chronic diseases that I've mentioned at the bottom of the slide, diabetes, that's type 2 diabetes, heart disease, so it can be anything from, having coronary artery disease, heart angina, heart attacks, palpitations. It can be high blood pressure and dysregulation of your cholesterol. As we know, we have good and bad cholesterol, and up until the menopausal age, up until the time that you're producing your usual optimal quantities of estrogen, generally speaking, women have a better cardiovascular risk than their male counterpart. And that's because they have higher HDL, they have lower blood pressure, but all of that all those protective measures of estrogen obviously diminishes as you transition through the latter stages of perimenopause and menopause. They're also more likely to have fatty liver. So we see some women, come to see me because they have derangement of their liver function test on their usual blood test, which has effects on their general health, and high blood pressure. These are things that they're conditions that we see quite a lot of during later perimenopause and menopause. Estrogen is as you probably know, I know a lot of my patients are very well read. They know about where estrogen works. We have estrogen, progesterone, testosterone receptors almost on every single organ in our body, and it influences different organs differently. Of course, the symptoms that we commonly hear about and majority of people know about more is the hot flushes and night sweats. That's the regulation, the temperature regulation side of estrogen. But for our metabolism, it directly influences your appetite. It also influences the maintenance of your muscle. So although estrogen or loss of estrogen doesn't automatically mean weight gain, but it makes gaining that weight much, much easier, especially if you're doing exactly the same routine, the same calorie intake, the same as before. So we need to look at what to change. The fat distribution, as I said, changes from hips, lower limbs to central visceral fat. We become more insulin sensitive. We become more insulin resistant with the lack of estrogen. So estrogen makes sure that the cells are very sensitive to insulin, so it drives the sugar directly into the cell, and you have less insulin production, which in itself is inflammatory. And of course, our energy expenditure, just even if you're sitting still and doing absolutely nothing before we hit the menopause, we have a higher rate of losing calories and energy than when we become menopausal. And that has various different physiological reasons for it. One of them is because for women who have quite significant symptoms, for those who have insomnia, have high cortisol, they're inflamed, they literally move, even when they're keeping still, they move less. They're doing less, for example, house chores. They're just doing less everyday activities that is not exercise. And that, of course, makes a difference to how much you can burn, almost like 300 to 600 calories a day from non-exercise related activities. Women, just to give you some statistics, we lose about 3 to 8% of muscle every decade. That's from 40 onwards, mainly. But yeah, after the age of 30, depending on the genetic makeup and how much activity one does, but it's mainly from 40 onwards. But we can actively preserve it by doing resistant exercises. And like the visceral fat that I explained, that is not an inactive, just muscle fat pad, same goes with the muscle. Muscle is a very active organ. It helps us to be metabolically active and to burn the calories and energy. So if I had to give you one piece of advice, if there was one thing that a menopausal woman needs to do in order to keep her weight or maintain her weight at the level that she likes or start losing, is to gain the muscle, because it helps you with higher resting metabolism. It gives you better sugar control. It helps to the muscle mass helps to make the cells more sensitive to the insulin that you've produced. And of course, in later life, one of the main and more common problems that we run into is with falls. And of course, for menopausal women who haven't had HRT or who may have had osteopenia or osteoporosis despite having some HRT, the fall can result in fractures. That is, so the morbidity and mortality from that is quite high. It also helps. Muscle is an extremely important part of our bone health, and it just generally gives us confidence because it helps us to keep the shape that we feel more comfortable with. Now, blood sugar is the second, I mean, equally as important, but I would say if you're trying to lose weight, you need to definitely concentrate on your muscle mass. But blood sugar, it's very important, and all the food that can help you spike your blood sugar, it will result in a higher insulin production, which in itself is inflammatory, but it also results in fat storage. And that fat storage without estrogen would be in the central area of our body. The insulin, the higher insulin you produce, the higher storage of fat is going on in the body, and also the quicker your sugar level will fall, and then you'll get the sugar craving again, and the cycle starts. So that's the main reason why, with our snack habit or eating habit changes when we hit the menopause. Generally speaking, women, it's only when we tell them to pay a lot of attention to what, or keep a diary of what they've had, they realize how much extra sugar is in their diet. And if once they start eliminating that or reducing it, it will result in loss of weight. Now, just to give you a real more in depth about insulin resistance, because that's what happens even with the lower estrogen level, despite how much sugar you're taking. So this picture is a cross section of a cell. And of course, we know insulin helps the cell to draw in the sugar that we've taken. So with time, the lock is essentially the insulin receptor. So with time, that becomes very rusty. So you need more, and you're producing more and more insulin in order to give you the same level of intake of sugar into the cells. And the higher insulin, of course, makes the fat breaking up the fat loss much more difficult. So that's the sort of cycle of sugar intake, insulin. But as I said, even without taking in sugar, just the fact that you have lower estrogen level and with aging cells as well, that can result in needing more insulin and producing more insulin in midlife. Now, how can we keep the blood sugar stable? The first thing that is the most important part is protein, and you'll see me, throughout this webinar tell you about protein, how important it is to take protein, how important it is not to do any crash diets, because that will increase your, unwanted hormones, inflammatory hormones like cortisol. So prioritizing your protein intake, and that can be, even for those who are vegetarians, there's many different ways you can take protein, from plant-based protein, healthy fats, which is like as in this picture, olive oil, avocado, oily fish, nuts, unsalted nuts, of course. The fiber really helps not only with movement throughout your gut, because with a lack of estrogen, you're more likely to develop clinically underactive thyroid, especially again with in those women who have a genetic predisposition to either Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune hypothyroidism, or even in those who don't have any genetic predisposition, they're more likely to have derangements on their blood tests, and it can make them feel constipated. And that can have a direct impact on both production of hormones in people who have, women who are in the later stages of perimenopause and they're producing some hormones, because some, obviously the first organs or the main organs for production of hormones is your ovaries, but also your gut is really important. And it's really, really important for those who take HRT, because that's how you eliminate and you process hormones out of your system. So those who have issues with their gut health, they're constipated, or they have inflammatory gut problems, they tend to run into difficulties with side effects of excess hormones. So they can have, a lot of breast tenderness or enlargement or spotting, bleeding, etc. Vegetables are really important, like berries and beans and nuts. Of course, it's really important for keeping your blood sugar stable and stopping the cravings. Now, I think we all know here what's not good for us at this point in order to lose weight. And this doesn't mean that you should never eat the food that we see on this slide, but it means that you should be conscious of it. You should be more aware, not to include that. But of course, we will all eat some of these at some point, and we should. But it's just to keep an eye on, you can't have, as if you were one of those lucky people that could eat a portion of this kind of food every day and maintain your weight. Well, that's no longer the case. If you do that, that will definitely mess up with your weight control, with your insulin resistance, with your inflammation, and you should try to avoid and reduce the quantity. And just to give you also that's another really common question: how much protein should I eat in a day? So roughly, it's about 1.5 grams per kilogram of weight per day, if you wanted to calculate it. And you can distribute it by, taking, we talk about 3 meals a day, you can take about 20-30 grams per meal. And that can come from, things like eggs, chicken, fish, tofu. It could be any legume, it could be lentils, Greek yogurt, whatever. But I have to also share this with you, because most midlife women don't eat enough protein, because they often, especially those who are very concerned about their weight, they often do fasting. So that fasting, obviously, you have a very short period of time during which you're eating, and just naturally you can't eat that much. If you calculate how much, 20-30 grams per meal, or say 1.5 grams per kilogram of your weight, generally speaking, people don't manage this much, and that can make them feel very hungry. They reach out for the carbohydrates, and the whole shebang starts with insulin resistance and inflammation. Still, the gold standard, even in menopause, is the Mediterranean diet. So whatever is good for your heart, essentially, is good when it comes to when we're dealing with hormones and menopause care. So all of the food that you see, that plate of food that you see on the slide, is what you should be aiming for your meals, because it also is associated with a lower heart disease, lower inflammation, better weight control, and healthier aging altogether. So that would be especially if we start from the bottom, actually whole grains, so to completely replace everything that, carbs that you have with the whole grains, the unsalted or raw nuts, beans, fish, any kind of fish, preferably the oily fish like what we see here, salmon, olive oil, and vegetables. So we know menopause creates a low-grade inflammatory state. That's a given. Just the fact that your estrogen drops, you are in a low-grade inflammatory state. But you can change that by your lifestyle. You can really change that inflammation, and that should be your aim, to try to take yourself from, whether you're in a mid or high grade inflammation or in a low-grade inflammatory state. You can, by looking at these things that is on the slide, by looking at your sleep, by looking at your movement, making sure that you have a whole range of various vegetables on your daily diet, making sure that you have the healthy fats and the all important reducing your cortisol. Now, that's very different for different people. Some, is whatever suits your lifestyle, is whatever that you take, really gives you pleasure and you feel the calmness internally. And it can be very different things for different people. That's another like really common points of discussion in consultations with women that I have. They often say, which one should I do? What stress reduction should I do? And it can be, some people enjoy cooking, baking. Some people enjoy yoga, going out to nature for a walk, meeting up with a friend. But sometimes for other people, that's more stressful. It gives them, it takes their course. So only you can really be truthful, sit down, really think about it, see what is it that because you are doing your exercises, your resistance, your cardiovascular exercises. That's, that's not stress management. That's looking after your muscle mass, it's looking after your joints, your heart health, and just, making sure that you remain a healthy body throughout. But what is your stress management strategy? And that should take, you should take some time to think about what it is that you really enjoy and calm down with. So when it comes to exercise, please forget about exercising to burn calories, because that's where we make the mistake. You have to, if your ethos is I'm exercising to build my health, not to burn calories, I think then you're there. Then you know what to do. But the best combinations, again, are those I've mentioned them here. So it's first of all, it's the strength training, which should be about 2-3 times a week. Walking, preferably daily, if not every other day. It's really nice. I don't think we understand the benefits, or we don't talk about the benefits of it as much as it deserves. Just general mobility, whatever it could be dancing, it could be, playing team sport, racket sport, whatever it is. Balance would be your yoga, your Pilates. Again, dance is a part of balance exercise. And any other movement can be just going for 15 minutes from, in your lunch break at work, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and 10 minutes back. That's it. That's and that you should try to incorporate all of that every day in your life. Resistant training, as I mentioned, it's about building your muscle, protecting your bones. It makes a huge difference to your insulin sensitivity. So immediately after an exercise and up to a few hours after, up to 6 hours afterwards, your body, your cells are more sensitive to insulin. So immediately that inflammatory chemical drops. Supports your metabolism, you're burning calories 4 hours afterwards again, and of course that results in an improved psychological and body confidence as well. And the sessions, roughly 2 to 3 sessions, roughly about 30-40 minutes, under an hour. We shouldn't underestimate walking. It is you're killing a few birds with a stone, in fact, because you're doing your cardio, but it depends on the rate by which you walk. But even if you're just medium speed walking, you are burning calories, you are reducing your cortisol, you are changing your blood sugar level. Especially if that walking is after a meal, it significantly reduces your blood sugar spikes. And even a short walk, because often people say, I don't have time to go for like this long 10,000 steps a day. Again, change your sort of mindset about that. Literally 10 minutes after a meal, just get up, walk out of your house, your work, wherever. I'm sure you can find that little short period of time to go for a walk. It makes a world of difference, both to our mental health and physical health and weight management. Our sleep is another thing, is that which is really important, not only on how well we function the following day. It has a direct effect on how we cope even with other menopausal symptoms like hot flushes, like brain fog, etc. But it has a crucial role to play in our weight management, because when we don't sleep well, there are certain chemicals, certain hormones that change in our body. They are leptin. Leptin, think of it as I'm full hormone, essentially. So it's released mainly by your fat cells, and it tells your brain that you have had enough energy stored. So it helps you to reduce your appetite. Ghrelin, on the other hand, is the hungry hormone. So it's released mainly by your stomach. It signals to your brain that it's time to eat. So it increases your appetite. And cortisol, we know, poor sleep, stress, and hormonal changes can disturb these hormones. Cortisol is one of the adrenal hormones. Adrenals are the two little glands that sit on top of the kidneys. They produce adrenaline when we're scared, cortisol when we get very stressed, and cortisol, we know, has an inflammatory effect. But yeah, poor sleep and the hormonal changes can disturb these hormones. So, for example, if you have little sleep, it can increase your ghrelin. It can make you feel hungrier, and it reduces leptin. So it's making it harder to feel full, which can all lead to increased cravings, overeating, and of course, with although stress or cortisol doesn't directly cause fat, but it changes your behavior. So you do more comfort eating, less movement, because if you are stressed, or if you are under the reduction in hormone, in estrogen, progesterone, your body perceives it as a fight or flight mode. It goes into the fight or flight mode. So you're not burning the calories, you're storing, and you just want to run away or just deal with it. Cortisol increases your insulin level, and again, the cycle continues. So if I had to ask you all to basically look at your weight, not just as numbers, don't go on the scales and look at, get fixated on the number that you see. Because a lot of women just say, regardless of what that weight is, they tell me, I don't recognize my body. So even in those who, they may actually have lower weight than before. These are in women who don't do much resistant exercise. They lose a lot of muscle mass and gain, fat because it's lighter. But of course, their shape changes, and it's very, very common. So be kind to yourself. Your body is adapting, it's not failing you. It's just going through a lot of metabolic changes, hormonal changes. So I think if we understand what's going on, we can then begin to help it and help ourselves to be our best version and to be the optimal, most confident self. So this is another very common question: can HRT help? Some women actually come. I often ask for any initial patients that I see, I ask them to give me their top 3 symptoms, and it's quite, it can be quite cruel because often women have more than 3 symptoms, but it helps us to sort of concentrate and direct the consultation, so that, because in the first one I can't deal with the whole 20 host of different things if they have it, but what is it that is really bugging you? What is it that is really upsetting you? Weight is, I would say, 40-50% of the time is in one of those top 3, and they want to know whether HRT will help them to lose weight. So HRT is not a weight loss treatment. It's not, Weight Watchers. It's not reduction in calories, whatever. But indirectly, it can make weight management easier, for sure. So how does it do that? It reduces your abdominal fat accumulation because, as I explained earlier on, estrogen results in the redistribution of our fat from our hips and lower limbs to our visceral central. So for women, and that's, I would say, almost 100% of women, they complain about central weight gain and their waist changing in measurements, etc. So yes, if you start taking some correct type of HRT and the right dosage of HRT, that can result in, again, redistribution of that fat. It certainly can improve your sleep, especially if you're having less night sweats. Even in those who don't have hot flushes and night sweats in the evening, they could be having, even in perimenopause, they could have reduction. They often do have reduction in progesterone, which is the hormone that is released at ovulation, and that helps with sleep. It relaxes your central nervous system. It helps maintain sleep. So giving them some progesterone can really improve that, and that can have a very beneficial effect on their appetite management, on what foods they reach out to, and on insulin resistance again. HRT can certainly improve energy. It supports exercise because they're less achy. They can be bothered more to go out. They become more interested in themselves, and it improves insulin sensitivity. So although, no, it's not a weight loss management program, HRT, but it can, and it does help with weight management. It makes it easier. My take-home message from all of this is the first would be to eat protein first. So don't avoid having a meal until 3 p.m., 4 p.m. or whatever. That just increases your cortisol level. And it's not good for your bone health. It's not good for your hair, skin, your eyesight, all of that. So, but include protein in any shape or form with every meal that you have. Start lifting weights if you're not already. Try to walk daily, even if that's 10-15 minutes. Your sleep is crucial there's no way that somebody who has, chronic insomnia, that has very poor sleep, they will struggle a lot with their weight. And it becomes, it affects their mental health even at that point. Don't exclude all fats. Please include the healthy fats in your diet. They're really important. In fact, hormones are, it's the building block of hormones, cholesterol. So don't feel this is all good. There's the HDL, it's a high density lipoprotein. So include it in your diet. And yes, we can all be a bit of a perfectionist. Try to avoid that. Just go easy on yourself and be consistent with all of this. It's not going and doing 3 hours or 2 hours in the gym, a couple of times a week and then dropping out for the next couple of weeks and then feeling guilty going back in. It's the consistency. It's those short periods of time, but consistently sticking to it. You can add, there are many different ways to add protein to your breakfast. If you're not a breakfast kind of a person, you can even add it to your drinks, protein powder. If you can't walk after every meal and you had to just choose one, it would be after your dinner for sure. This is for weight, just looking at the weight management. 2 strength training sessions per week, and above all, stop blaming yourself. It's, everybody, every menopausal woman goes through this. I have patients who are professional athletes, and they also complain about change in shape, difficulty in managing their weight. So you're definitely not alone. I have finished this part of the presentation. Perhaps the most important message, I think, today is that your body hasn't let